afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and also the youth and the seniors. We have a very dynamic show once again today. My name is MC Richardson, your host and your moderator of Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City. And we're going to kind of go over a few things prior to, Ray Charles and the movie In the Heat of the Night with Rod Steiger, what have you, whereas they got in the heat of the city here in Kansas City, the black community. They're talking about closing down Central High School and probably Northeast. But here's the gimmick. Central High School was rated as one of the top schools. It had a lot of Casey Stengel, a lot of people before they rebuilt it. A lot of distinguished people went to Central High School. And they even had the Olympic-sized swimming pool, which people from all over the city would come to Central High School. They had a fencing group, then they got into basketball, then they got into football. But what I'm getting ready to say that they're talking about closing down Central High School. Oh, and the people went wild for a day and a half, okay? Now, what the plot is, we might call it Trumpism, or we might call it white flight, whereas they think about in order to keep you people, did you hear that? You people happy, they will hold on to Southeast with the population, whatever, is lower than Central High School in Northeast. But today we're going to talk about going all the way to the East Coast. But the person's right here in Kansas City that set the tone for us. A good friend of mine, they've known him as a black cowboy. I've known him as the guy who knows how to train trick horses and things like that. A very renowned, not only black cowboy, but he's a hell of a photographer. We'd like to welcome Mr. Rex Trefoy to the show today. How are you doing, Rex?
Yeah, everything's going good right now. I was just on my way out to the ranch to check on the horses, but I'm okay to talk. I know we got an appointment here this evening, so I'm ready to roll.
Okay, now you said your horses. Do you have any pintos? Do you have palomino? What type of horses do you normally train?
I have quarter horses.
Okay.
Quarter horses are the kind that the cowboys use. The other horses, they have other names of horses, but my horses are Western horses, cowboy horses, quarter horses. I have what you call a black and white paint, and then I have a sorrel with 4 white stockings and a white blazed face. All my horses would be what you call show horses. I have stuff that's very attractive to the audience, like silver saddles and all that kind of stuff. So I've got the old original Hollywood cowboy stuff, none of that 10-cent stuff. The original Hollywood cowboy stuff. I mean, the costumes, the gun holsters, and shirts, and all the horses' gear and everything. Okay, back with
Let me ask you this: how do you get the horses when they coach? What's the earliest you start training them?
Well, I can start training at kind of any time because I know how to train. I know a horse inside and out because I've been doing it for about 30 or 40 years. And some people can't train a horse just like they can't train a dog. You have to kind of have a gift to be able to do stuff like that. But I can take them and train them and have them ready to go in about 3 or 4 weeks to perform. They won't perform as good as my seasoned horses, but I can get through an act if I just had to have a horse to do a lot of tricks and stuff like that because I know how to train them since I've trained them many, and all of them operate just about the same. Some horses is gifted a little more talent than other horses, just like people are. They'll learn quicker, and some will not learn as quick as the others. Okay, well, that's going to answer for
let's talk about this. Most people talk about, say, the people in the South, and otherwise they said people cross the tracks and what have you. But they say how the people from the South compare much better than the people in the Midwest and the North, the West, or whatever, because whatever the man, you might say, give them in the South, the black folks want to have the same thing. If it's education, it's for monies and things like they might let them not cross the track as often. But how do you see that as you being from North Carolina? How do you measure the people here in the Midwest? I know you've been halfway around the city, halfway around the country, and you've been all over. But right now, we are very fortunate to have you here in Kansas City and also connected with Ferguson and St. Louis and the people who are on YouTube, people on Facebook, the people on Apple TV, Smart, and iPhone, and also the podcast. And we got some other type deals too. But how do you venture as far as people having to get up and go? Do you think you've done better? You could do better in the South than you can where you are now?
No, the Midwest would be better because people out here is more familiar with the cowboys and rodeos, where down south the people are not that familiar. But right now they're being more familiar because it's publicized on Facebook. And since you have your telephone, you can get a lot of information that you never did by watching your telephone. With the black rodeos, they're showing up all over the country now, and they're recognizing that there were really black cowboys, because there's always been black cowboys. In Texas and Oklahoma, they always had rodeos, black rodeos. And people never did know about that, and they're just finding out about that. But that's been going on, seemed like forever about that. But it's always been the Hollywood cowboy world. Everybody was white in there, and they never did show any black people in there. But now you're getting a chance to see every once in a while a black person walking in the background in the city, or he might have a little part in the movie. So they're just getting around to recognizing that in the movie industry. So
well, I was just thinking about this: intruders from cowboys to girls. I listened to that today, and we didn't know how beautiful those women, like them black rodeos they have down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They have it down in McAllister, rather. They have it all over Tulsa. They used to have rodeos here in Kansas City, out to Benjamin Stable. Then they was out on 139th or 140th and Holmes, and they would bring the people. A lot of them would come in from Oklahoma, and I knew I had a lot of relatives down there. They would participate in rodeo. But you've been here in Kansas City for quite some time. What is we don't have to just get right on this, but what is your new thing that you won't be here on my 83rd birthday, December 3rd? Where will you be and why?
I'm booked in Durham, North Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. I left there in the about 1970 to go with the first black rodeo to go to New York City in 1972. And that's when I left Durham, North Carolina, my hometown, with my horses to perform with the, not the Bill Pickett Rodeo, but the Cowboy of Color. Later on, I was with the Bill Pickett Rodeo, and then I was with the Universal Soul Circle. When it first started, I was with them. But I'll be in North Carolina at a school where I attended from the first to the sixth grade. Some people decided they would like to have me back there on a special day on December 3rd. I'm not taking their horses, but I'm doing fancy rope tricks. I'm doing spectacular whip tricks. I'm doing fancy gun twirling, and I'm going to demonstrate 7 ways that the cowboy drew his gun and fired back in the old days. And by the way, cowboys didn't shoot up and do stuff like you see in the movies. The cowboys only used those guns to protect themselves when they was driving cattle against wild animals and someone trying to steal their herd. It wasn't just a shoot up like killing a lot of people. That's a Hollywood type of thing that they started. But anyway, that's what I'll be performing, and I'll do a couple of cowboy songs along with me playing the guitar. So I'll do about a 15 or 20 minute presentation without the horses. And this is for the West End in Durham, North Carolina. I lived in the mid-city where I had to go to the West End when I was a little boy. And that was from the 1st to the 6th grade. And I remember one of my school teachers, Mr. Adolph Coward, he would always call me in the 6th grade Boots and Saddles. That's the name he gave me because I was a cowboy then, Boots and Saddles. So that's what I'll be doing on the West End in Durham, North Carolina on December the 3rd, but I'll arrive there before December the 3rd because I don't go into any place and be rushing. I'm always an hour or two ahead of time with my stuff all set up, ready to perform at the time that they give me, which will be 2 o'clock. That's what time the show starts.
Well, let's do this. We got some novices too on the other end, and they may not know anything. Oh, they might, because they might have. Maybe it's down there doing a little roping themselves or trying to get the Black Angus or whatever, but we'll let them come and join us. They might have some questions. I know some of them was on this talk show we did before, and it was most appreciated. And people said, when you going to have him back? I said, just don't let him quit his day job. Then he's going to say he's going to do a little singing. I don't know what he's going to sing, but if a person can come in, Ira or Scott can come in, although, do they have any horses back and cows back in Buffalo?
I'm sure they do.
I can't get a word out of y'all.
Well, you see, I know that in Louisiana, where I was born at, briefly, I was there. I was born. I was in Dixbury, but I know that. Matter of fact, I was talking to a gentleman today and yesterday. In Dixbury, Mississippi, there was a blacksmith that lived. I said, there's a shop in the alley behind one of the houses that we had, and he made horseshoes, and I used to always be amazed. Okay, what went into actually taking a piece of steel, and he actually know that the horse would be right there, and he just make the shoes. I was always amazed by that. About watching the blacksmith, which nowadays is nothing about blacksmith. So beautiful. Are they still around now? How's that business place?
I think he's speaking to you, Rex.
Okay, I didn't get that part.
Okay, so I said, they still have blacksmiths now that do horses that make shoes for the horseshoes? How's that working? That's going to do a different way nowadays.
I think you're referring to the blacksmith. They used to, whenever they put the horseshoes on or whatever, is that still common? I don't know. I know y'all not lost for words. But in the meantime, Scott, we know they ride horses, a policeman up in Buffalo and New York. Did you know anything about where you're afraid to get close to the horse?
I didn't grow up in Buffalo, New York, sir. I have no clue.
Okay, MC, we lost Mr. Gill, but he's back with us right now.
I got lost. Something got to disconnect somewhere. I don't know what happened with it.
Well,
we got you back, and we didn't talk bad about you either.
Okay, well, my question was, Rex was as a kid, I used to see a gentleman made horseshoes at the blacksmith. I'm saying now that profession still going. How do they make horseshoes nowadays? They do a different way.
Well, you buy them horseshoes now, they're already made up. Yeah, I know in the old days, when I was a little boy, I used to see the guy taking, heat them and would make them and stuff like that. But now, yeah, they would take and get them real, real hot and then fit them to the horse's hoof. But now they come already made. You don't see any blacksmith now that's doing, like you're talking about. I remember that.
Yeah, they would take a piece of steel, and just heat it up, with the thing they had that go and get it real hot.
Right. Yeah, that was back in the old days. They don't do that. When the guy come out now, he'll come out and he'll have the shoe he has several shoes that's already in different sizes. It's like your shoe with 5 or 6, and kind of, he'll bring that kind and put them right on, tack them right on after he trim the hooves and stuff like that. Like he trim the nails and clean out the hooves, and then do the frog, cut the frog down a little bit.
And you said the frog. What part of that shoe is?
That's the bottom of the hoof that grows out. You got to shave that down to keep the horse from that frog from touching the ground. See, so we have to shave that down. But I just know enough about when I see the guy doing that. I never did do that myself. I always have a guy to come out and trim my horses for me.
Oh, yeah, he was very good. Now, it was a very beautiful thing to watch. How they would do that. And then he was the part there inside the horseshoe there. Once they get it there, they will put the nails and they had special nails they would put into the horseshoe.
Yeah, but you got to know what. Those guys. You got to know what you're doing. Everybody can't do that because a lot of people trim the horse just like you cut your fingernails to the quick, and the horse will go lame. And
Right.
Yeah, and some horses never get over that, and they did. I remember a girl with the Bill Pickett Rodeo. She had a good horse that cost her way up in the money, and she took him to the place that they was teaching people how to horse, to trim horses, and that guy cut him to the quick, and that was the end of her horse.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it was very much a hard, okay. I mean, I remember the name gentleman, okay, that that's how you get all big people, bigger man in right back. I was the Bishop Mississippi, right on the edge of the river there, and people would come in, and like I said, and he would kind of watch it. The nails, they had to bend them over it, and all that kind of stuff. So something that was you can watch.
Yeah, but see, I'm what you call the Hollywood cowboy. I'm the guy to do all the tricks and stuff. The entertainer, like when they bring after the bucking horses, and they bring me on to do the entertainment, the highlight of the thing, do all the fancy. I'm the showman to do all the fancy stuff,
Okay.
I'm not the guy that ride the bucking horses and the bulls and stuff. I do all the showman stuff, stand on the horse, jump through the loop, twirl the gun and shoot out the balloons, and take the whip and cut the cigarette out of your mouth and cut the fire off the cigarette with my whip. I do all that. That's the kind of cowboy with all the fancy Hollywood cowboy costume. The shirts cost maybe $3,500 to be made. Like I say, I'm the Hollywood cowboy, so I got all my stuff made in Hollywood, where Gene Archer, Roy Rogers, and all them big guys, the same place that they got their stuff made. That's where they're not in business anymore. It's called Nudies, Nudies, who made for all the Hollywood cowboys, all the movie studios, and all the rich people who was into that, because that stuff costs a lot of money, like all them country and western guys who makes all that money, and the people be laughing at, and they make all that money and got mansions and things, those country and western people. So they don't even wear that fancy stuff anymore like they used to. But it's a guy that's got a museum where he got all that stuff that those country and western people and some of those Hollywood cowboys, where they had all that expensive stuff made. He was a friend of them. He bought it, or they donated it to him. Now he's got a museum in Philadelphia Museum where you can go and look and see all that fancy Hollywood cowboy stuff, along with Gene Archer Museum out in Hollywood, California, and also Oklahoma City, the National Cowboy Hall of Fame got all that stuff on displays. Now I got a stuff that can meet the same type of museum that all those famous rich people got. I've got all that stuff myself.
People not aware that Gene Archer was very much a great businessman also.
Yeah, I know he was a great businessman. I met Gene Archer. I got a picture with Gene Archer. Also, on some of my old movies that I showed that I didn't even see when I was a little boy. Gene Archer had black people in his movies way back then. I can't say that about Roy Rogers because Roy Rogers, I think only one time I saw one black boy in a singing group. But Gene Archer, even I saw a movie about 18 months ago, an old movie. Gene Archer had a black lady standing out in the audience as a medicine show was coming through, and you don't see no black people standing in the audience in them old cowboy movies. And Gene Archer also on one stage thing, he had a black comedian up there dressed up in a American outfit with the red stripes and stuff, and then he had little children that would come on his radio show. That would be in his cowboy movies. Gene Archer did a lot of stuff way back there that people don't even know about, where a lot of them other cowboys, they never had no black people in the movie.
Yeah,
I'm familiar. I'm down, and I'm familiar with all the cowboys back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s, all them cowboy movies. I'm familiar with all those guys. And I remember as a little boy, only two cowboys came through at the theater to be in person who was white. They went to the the white theater, but they didn't shoot. I remember Don Redberry coming through at the Rigger Theater in Durham. I remember Fuzzy Q Jones coming through. They were the only two.
Wow.
Okay.
You know,
and also, let me tell you this: Herb Jeffers. I don't know whether you heard about him. He was the first and only singing Hollywood cowboy like Gene Archer and Roy Rogers. Herb Jeffers just died about 5 years ago. He was died at 100 years old. He was the only black Hollywood cowboy singing cowboy, and he also sung with Duke Ellington when he was much younger.
Well, what made you decide to become a cowboy?
Okay, you broke up on me.
I said, what was the reason? What was your, reason? I guess, why did you go to become a cowboy?
Okay, here's the reason. Here's the reason right here, and that's a good question you asked me. I was sitting in the movie. I was 12 years old at the Rigger Theater in Durham, where they played all the cowboy movies every Friday and Saturday, and I would always be there. I always wanted to be a cowboy, but I never did see any black cowboys. So one day I was sitting in the movie. I can remember it just like it was yesterday. On the premiere screen came up Two Gun Man from Harlem, with all black cowboys up on the screen. I said, oh, that was the best feeling I had in my life. I said, no, I knew I'd seen the white cowboys, but I said, I didn't have a feeling wanting no black cowboys, and I don't know where I would fit in. But when I saw Herb Jeffers, the singing cowboy, it made me, that's how I got into that. And I got a chance to tell Herb Jeffers that when we had a meeting out in Hollywood, and they did a video with Gene Archer and with all the cowboys that were still living, and Herb Jeffers was there, and I have that documented on a videotape. Peter Jennings, at that time, the newscaster, did a story on Herb Jeffers being inducted into Gene Archer Museum. Now, Herb Jeffers, again, was the black cowboy, and they found out that I was a guy that Herb Jeffers had something to do with me becoming a cowboy, and they paid for my trip to come out there. And so I'm on the video telling this same story. When I was a boy, Herb Jeffers appeared on the screen. I'm telling this to Herb Jeffers, and they're recording that. So that's how I became a cowboy. So then I was thinking, as a little boy, see, I had really good, I said, oh, since we don't have a lot of black cowboys, I'm going to be a cowboy, and I can take Herb Jeffers' place. So that's how it happened.
And as a kid, I wanted to be a cowboy, and I guess now next question is, are there any cowboys coming behind you that just need a lost profession?
Well, they got one boy here in Kansas City that was with Ringling Brothers. He saw me many times in parades and stuff. His name, you can look him up. He's really a big shot. with Ringling Brothers. Look up this name, Andre McLean, Ringling Brothers. He does a few little things like I do, like the cowboy. He train animals and do everything. He lives in Kansas City now, but Ringling Brothers, they stopped doing things. I don't know whether they're going to start back again, but that circus stopped about a few years ago, and so he came back to Kansas City. And we have performed together up in Oklahoma. We did about 10 cities with the Shrine Circus. Now, Shrine Circus, the Shrine people all over Oklahoma, all them people was white people. And that was good for them to sponsor that a circus and have two black entertainers, more than us. In a tough town like Oklahoma, where those prejudiced people are, we traveled. We did 5 shows, Andre and myself. Andre was the ringmaster. I did the cowboy stuff. Then they had some boys out of Chicago, black boys that did the bicycle work and playing the basketball. That's true. They had them on there. So I often wondered how those people felt about that, but they applauded us, with the Shrine Circus. I mean, the Shriners sponsoring a circus. It was a white circus, but they had 3 different black people in that show performing.
Well, let me ask you this. You said they was playing basketball. It wasn't the Harlem Globetrotters, was it? And Sweet Georgia Brown.
No, these boys out of Chicago, some new young boys.
Okay.
No, I just looked at Mr. McLean, and he said, from McLean Entertainment, okay, and
Andre McLean, look in there. He's been to every city, overseas, and everywhere. And he was the ringmaster of one of their shows, and they had sold-out audience. When you pull up that name, Andre McLean of Ringling Brothers, you can see all the places that boy had gone to. I'm surprised that Tyler Perry or somebody didn't pick up that boy. And as talented as boy was, speaking and singing and doing all those tricks, training animals, but that's the way it is out there. It's over with the black people. It seems like you're out of it.
I had him and his wife on one of my shows.
Yeah, his wife is from Australia. Argentina. She's a dancer, can play the guitar, do all types of dances. I mean, she's very talented. That girl can do so many things. And Andre is also very talented, can do all that kind of stuff. But that's the way it goes, though. You know how it is with our people. We can do all that stuff, but it seems like we can't get ahead to prosper because some of our people, and it ain't all the white people sometimes, and sometimes our own people want to hold you back. Bill Pickett said when he was famous with the 101 Ranch, he said his friends, his black friends, were jealous and envious of him. He would loan them money, they wouldn't pay him back. Yeah, so a lot of things, even when I was I can say this, when I was with the Bill Pickett Rodeo, I used to meet the people from Oklahoma every year, and seemed like they was kind of envious. So I asked the producer one day, that was Lou Vasson. He was the black guy that started that Bill Pickett Rodeo and gave black cowboys a chance to show what they could do all over the United States. I asked him one day because I'm the guy that never got the big head. I was saying, Lou, I said, a lot of times I said, well, I meet these people every year and they act like they don't want to speak. His words was just like this. This is the words he told me, and this is the way he sounded. Can't do what you do. I said, doggone. I said, I wouldn't think that people would be like that. Can't do what you do, because I could do all those tricks, but I practiced. Look, 10, 15 years, I put 20 years and still practice. I put into that stuff. They could have done the same thing, but they didn't do it. And I was the guy that made the show real good. But like you said, couldn't do what you do, so they get the image of you when you come out there and can do a whole lot of tricks and got a horse dressed with a silver sock and dance and do all that stuff. They rather not even for me to be in the show where they could get the you know, all the applause and stuff like that. That's pitiful. I'm the kind of guy that put people ahead of me. If I go somewhere, they interviewing me, I'll be telling them about the other people. The man say, I don't want to know about them, I want to know about you. I was in Jet magazine in the centerfold, standing on my horse, beautiful horse with the silver saddle and had the rope twirling, and I sent the picture to Jet and Ebony because I was a stringer for them for 20 years. A stringer mean when they got stuff in the Midwest that they don't want to send that man from Chicago out here to save expense, they would call me. I was the man out here. So I sent the picture, but I sent two pictures. I sent one of me and Andre twirling ropes, and I thought that's the one they was going to use, but then I sent another one with me standing on the horse. I had no idea they was going to use the one with me standing on the horse. I thought they was going to use two black cowboys twirling ropes because people never got a chance to see that. And then the time Jet magazine came out, a guy called me from Washington or New York who remembered me out on the rodeo doing all them tricks. He said, man, you're on Jet magazine in the centerfold, and they got your name. And I know that ain't your name. They got Andre McLean. But see what I did, they made a mistake. But I was thinking about somebody else sending two pictures in. I could have just forgot about Andre and just sent my one picture, but I was thinking about him. So by me thinking about him, they made a mistake and put his name under my picture. They did a correction later on, but I knew the people up there, and I called the lady and told her who I was, and she recognized who I was. Ebony, and she said, "Well, honey, we can't do a correction to put that picture back in there again. See, Ebony is, and we're in the same building, but we're different organizations." And they couldn't do nothing about it, but they did put a few words in there saying that was the wrong picture, but they couldn't run the picture anymore.
Well, you meant
okay, I'm back.
Go ahead.
I'm back with you.
Go ahead. I was going to say,
okay,
we'll get it together. I was alluding to what you meant, stringer, and that's very common. I know he's hip to that, and Scott too. They use stringers all the time from city to city to fill in. Like you might say, Gail King, but they might send another stringer to do her part. Or they used to have a good friend of mine, Tim Richardson. They had him at the stringer for doing different things for different cities because they wanted to get that city covered. And that's how they do it. They still use that. That's the first time I heard stringer. I told a lot of people we need to get a lot more stringers. And that's a good part-time job or full-time job for people who want to get in the media because they send them. You have to be very orientated. You have to be smart. You have to know your lines, this, that, and other. But that's a good opportunity. And then you said it did the same thing to you as a stringer in the horse shows. And all this stuff is great. A lot of us don't know about this. A lot of us don't care. We need to know. Right now, we're behind time, even our own history. And we appreciate people like Rex bringing us up to date. And a lot of people say, I didn't know that. But they need to see, Rex, what should they do? You told us about yourself. How can a person gain more background and research on you? What should they do?
All you have to do is go to, on your telephone, all you got to do is just say Rex Purefoy and it'll come up. All you have to do on your telephone, you don't have to go to no site, just say Rex Purefoy, and then say it'll come up, and then go to Nathaniel Purefoy, and it'll come up.
Now, who is Nathaniel?
That's me. That's my name. My show name is Rex Purefoy, but go to Rex Purefoy, and you can find a lot of stuff on me, and then go to Nathaniel Purefoy, you can find a lot. You know, years ago, when this telephone first came out, I went to Nat Purefoy when I was on the Flip Wilson show with Richard Pryor back in 1972. I was just having to type in Nat Purefoy, and it brought up there where Hollywood owed me money, and No, I contacted them and they paid me. Like the unions out in Hollywood, yeah, with a thing now that I get, that I can be in any movies or anything. I can get a card. Well, it's hard to get a card to be in the movie. I mean, to get a regular. I mean, what you call the pay, the scale, the scale pay. See, those people who work in some of them black movies, they don't get the scale. The man can pay them just like he want to, just like down in Atlanta. That boy, he'll pay you so much a day to be an extra. But if you got your union card, you make double amount. And he doesn't like to hire you if you got a union card. He wants to stick to, now he's a good man, but he wants to stick to paying you what he wants to. See, it used to be $50 a day plus, and you had to be there early in the morning because I worked out in Hollywood on a couple of movies at the extra. You got to be there early in the morning, 6 o'clock, and stay there at 7 o'clock at night. You might not have to do nothing but walk up and down the street for about 2 or 3 minutes or stuff like that. But you got $50 a day plus they fed you. But now I think it's probably at about $70 a day. But if you got your screen card, it's $200 and $250 a day. Shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had a friend here, Roy Andrews. He was telling people to be extra. Like they get when you have a lot of times they go to these parks like these zoos, like the St. Louis zoos, the zoos out in California, and they normally get those students from USC and also from UCLA to be extra. And a lot of people, they make good money by just being extras.
Yeah, they can make pretty good if they can get enough work. But in Kansas City, you know, they make a move here once in a while. You can't get back. But from my experience, I don't want to come and sit around on the movie set. I've done it for 6 or 8 hours a day, not doing nothing, just sit there. I don't want to do that. I won't say I won't do it again, but I don't want to do that because I noticed when I was out there, see, I carried my ropes with me where I practiced between when they needed me, and a lot of guys brought instruments. I remember a guy was beating drums. They do everything they want to because you got 8 or 10 hours to sit around doing nothing, but you're still getting paid. But you can bring things with you to practice on or study your lesson or whatever when you're working on that thing. And a lot of people get already because they get a little extra job, think they're a star. I've seen them do that out in California. They think they're a star automatically. They come in for an interview, and they walk by you like they're a star already. Don't have know how to look to you and say hello or nothing. I've been through all that, and I was an observer, and I watched all that stuff on people.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, your listeners, what you should do is whatever Mr. Rex is telling you, Google it. They got all these phones. They got these research things. You could go to libraries or whatever. But we got to start taking advantage of this because a lot of the time when they had Louis Jordan playing a black cowboy in a white flick, okay? Well, they had
Louis Jordan made a, excuse me. Yeah, no, but Louis Jordan, he made a movie. It's called, look this up, Look Out Sister. He made an all-black cowboy movie in Arizona when he went there to live because of his health. So that movie, he made a full Western movie called Look Out Sister. And you pull up that Western movie. It's a real nice Western movie. And that's where I first saw a black guy doing trick riding. And he's in that movie. His name was Bob Scott. I met him at the rodeo after he gotten old out in California when we did a rodeo downtown Los Angeles. So, yeah, but and another thing, let me emphasize this also. A lot of these people, which they don't know themselves, a lot of people which they don't know themselves, I'm not talking about just our people, but white ones and the rest ethnic group, they need to tell these children, look, you're going to be there for a moment. You're not going to be there forever. And the people going to remember you. They're going to remember you if you got the big head and thought you were so big and walk by them and think you're a star and won't speak. Hey, they're going to remember you. And when you come down, look, you're going to be in a little place by yourself. Nobody going to say hello to you or nothing because people can easily get the big head, especially when you're young. They don't know any better. They don't have anybody to tell them. Be cool. Don't get the big head. I remember rodeo one time, they made a girl the queen of the rodeo, and she was a nice-looking girl. And when I got to the next town, I didn't see the queen of the rodeo. I asked Lou Vasson, this is the same man that started the Bill Pickett rodeo, the same one I just told you about, can't do what you do. I said, Lou, where's our queen? Rex, she started getting the big head too early because I made her the queen. I had to let her go.
You remember to give for what would you say would be your secret to your longevity?
Okay, hold on just a minute. What did you say? Say that again.
What would be your secret, okay, for your longevity by being in a cowboy this long?
Yeah, I don't know.
You want to know what would be your longevity for...
What's your secret?
Yeah.
Longevity for what?
What is your secret, okay, to being around so long in the business?
Well, I'm a guy like this here. I'm not like the average person. I'm altogether different. That's why I wanted to be a little cowboy to show our people there's black cowboys. That's what I always wanted to do. But I didn't know there was a lot of more black cowboys way out in the West because I never did read about it. Never read about it. Never did see it on the screen or anything. So my longevity is I always took care of myself real good. Never did stay out 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock and go to clubs and try to get up in the morning and go to work and be all tired and frustrated. I never did do a lot of drinking. Once in a while I have a alcohol. Never did smoking and cigarettes and stuff like that. Always treated people right. Always got my good rest because if I would go to a nightclub with a friend or something, I would always drive my car. And one friend said, he always drives his car because he don't like to disturb the people he with to say, I'm ready to go. And then, so I carry my car. If I get ready to go, I say, I'll see y'all, I'm gone. And I'm going home and go to bed. So the longevity is taking care of yourself real good, which a lot of people didn't do. So that's my longevity. And I'm still, like I say, performing and stuff like that. I'm on my way up to my horses right now. I'm going out there to check on them and things. I haven't used them in a little bit since the, COVID and all that this stuff is out here because people are not calling you like they used to. Even if bigger entertainment, if you've been keeping up with the news, they don't even, they just getting back into it. But doing that virus and stuff, they wasn't even getting into work. I remember one famous guy said he had blew all his money because he knew next year he was going to be making plenty of money. And that Corbett, they canceled all his shows. He said he was doing bad. Now, I can say this here. Since I've been in the business, and this ain't no brag or nothing, I never did do bad. Always when I did a show with my people, who I did private shows around Kansas City, when I did shows for the school system, even MC hired me to come and do a cowboy show for a school here in Kansas City. I always paid my help off immediately, whether I had to wait till the check the next day or 2 days later, but I always made an arrangement that they pay me right after the show. And a lot of white people have paid me before I did the show, brought the check right over and handed it to me before I even performed. But I always had money in my billfold to pay my help off. I usually have 2 or 3 people working with me, or at least 2. But time the show is over, I paid them their money. I wasn't like the old people back in the old day where you got to sit around 2 or 3 hours before the man hand you your money and all that old kind of stuff. I've been through that too. I've been through that, sitting around 2 and 3 hours, or 4 hours, or 5 hours before the man bring your money to you. But wait a minute now. Let me go back and say this here. It wasn't the white people that did that. It was the black people. For some reason, I guess they were going with That's what happened when they was growing up as a little boy, and they just can't get out of that. They got to wait 2 or 3 or 4 hours before they bring you money. The last show that I performed down in Sweetport, Louisiana, me and my help had to wait to 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting there after the show was over at 10 o'clock. We had to wait to 3 o'clock in the morning before the man paid us off. Now this is just about that's the way they operate. Unless you put in your contract. Now you put in your contract to be paid right after the show, but you agree upon that. But when you get there, it all changes. That's why Chuck Berry and James Brown and a lot of them entertainers, they start telling you they don't even pick up the guitar before you bring my money ahead of time. Not only little people in the show people, I call myself little people compared to them big guys like Chuck Berry who made all that money. And I've had some of the white guys have told me, said one guy said, I worked at a rodeo show and it was a sold out crowd. At the end of the show, the man who had the money couldn't be found.
You know, you Mr. Yelford, and I worked for years, I would work with an agency called Regal Sports here in St. Louis. And I was fortunate enough to be backstage, when the acts were being paid. And I know in those days, I think even today, they would get their money before they went on stage in cash money in those days. If you want, if you're $25,000 or $3,000, even $500, because once they always say, because once you go on the air, go on the show and do a show, okay, you can't you can't get your money. You already performed.
Now I've seen this in person myself with my own eyes. I've seen James Brown in Durham, North Carolina. Wouldn't even go on before the man, and the man name who brought the shows there, because I used to help him once in a while, Jack Mitchell. He brought a lot of those big entertainers. He wouldn't go on until Jack Mitchell brought his money. Jack Mitchell had to go around to some of those places that sold tickets and got that money and brought back before James Brown. I saw Guitar Slim, the original Guitar Slim back in the day. I saw him over in Greensboro. He wouldn't even go on before Jack Mitchell brought his money.
Well, certain people like that had a reputation, probably were not the same people, and you get around, okay, you may get paid before you perform.
Yeah. That's what I should have been doing down in Texas. There's a guy that used to have me to come down there. I would think I was charging him $2,500 or $3,500 for me and the horse, but anyway, he would always bring me $2,000 and then say, I'm going to have to send you the other $1,000. Now, the only way I got the other $1,000, let me tell you how I got the other $1,000. He wasn't going to send it to me. He would call me and need me back, and then he would send me the $1,000. Now, this is true what I'm telling you.
I know it. I know, sir. I work with entertainers quite a bit, back in the day, and I wasn't before. I just was with the promoters, and listen to some of the guys, who didn't get paid, because it's one of the, even in local acts, a lot of places in St. Louis, the nightclubs, some of the bands, house bands and stuff, they want to get paid that night, and then they go on, because sometimes they be waiting when you get your door before they will pay them. And that's...
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and I remember the same guy in Louisiana, we went to paid us off at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I noticed it's supposed to have been a black rodeo, but I noticed he would go back in the room and get the money, and it was a white man and a white lady back there. So I said to myself, evidently it must be this white man wasn't putting up the money for the doggone show. He was the one that was paying us off. The guy, he didn't, I think, and I didn't get all my money that night. I got $2,000 that night, $2,000. But look, he was going to send it back to me. But I'm going to tell you the only reason I got it this time that quick. You know why I got it? He called me and said, Rex, they're accusing me, the city council taking that money and doing something with it. They done caught up with them. See, a lot of them guys go to the city and get funded and tell them they're going to do this and do that. and they keep the money, but they caught up with him. But he was crying on the telephone. He got it straight though because he didn't have to go to jail. But that man was actually just about crying. They got me saying I did this, I didn't do this with the money, and do this and do that, and then but see, he had to send me that money then because he had to make a count for all that money, and they was on him about using the money for something else. So I got that other $1,000 through the mail, but I got it quick. But that's the only reason I got it, because he got caught up in some stuff and had to prove that he was paying that money out to the performers. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's what happened. Yeah, but now when I go places, and I'll tell the people they're not going to do it. I say, they send me a deposit, but when you get there, they talk real nice on the telephone. You get there, they change up. They got an attitude, looking like I remember I used to go to Dallas, Texas, the Fierce Fair Park Arena. And this guy would always call me, be the nicest man on the telephone. But when you got there, they act like his attitude done changed, like he looked like you ain't gonna get paid. That's just some of the things that happen. But I've been a lot of places.
That's real life. That's how. That's the other side of people that like a business that people gonna tell you about.
Yeah, I know. That's why I tell you, I'm an experienced guy out here. Now, I used to be with contracted under Coors Beer Company. They had a whole lot of money. I made good with them. But I remember one time they sent me a $10,000. They didn't send me a $10,000. They owed me for 2 shows. I think I did 2 shows or 3 shows. They sent $10,000. Well, they sent it to the producer, the same Mr. Vasson, the one that I was telling you about. And I called them and called up there and said, I need my money at your Coors Beer Company. They said, we sent your money 3 weeks ago. They said, Vasson's got your money. And this was the black producer of the rodeo that started the rodeo. Was a nice guy, but that's the way he was. He had my check there and didn't send it to me, had it up there for 2 or 3 weeks. And the girl who knew me from Coors that was traveling around when the rodeo was being presented, she was there with the Coors Beer Company, and she said, Rich, we already sent him. I'm going to call them right now and say, why is he holding your money? The next day, I got the special package. Overnight Express had my $10,000 check in there.
Yeah, I know.
But they get your money and don't want to pay you.
I know years ago, my brother-in-law used to work at Ivory Crockett. He worked for Coors, for quite a few years, doing a lot of entertainment acts, the one with Commonwealth contest. That was somebody actually helped design it and gave it to him. Back in those days, it was a contest program for a lot of young black artists back in those days.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been performing since professionally since 1972, so that gets up from some long years. But I was doing a few shows when I was a little boy. I couldn't do a whole lot of rope tricks, but I could do a little enough to twirl it and jump in it. When I was 12 years old, I was working for a place like a bar in Durham, North Carolina, where they sold beer and people stood up at the counter and drank beer. Now, this was a white place, and they had a guy there that tap danced named Sammy Dewey, and they had a man that played the washboard named Washboard Sam, and they had the man that played the piano, Mr. Prison. And so I would do a couple of I was 12 years old, I would do a couple of little rope tricks, and then when I finished doing the rope tricks, I took my hat around and they put money in the hat. And then when the boy tap danced, he would take his hat around and he got money. So we got cut real short, me and the tap dancer, because the piano player and washboard had to take money out of ours for them playing for us. When they played a little music when we did our little thing, so we got cut short. So we wound up making that night, I'm wanted to make $1.50 after they check out their money. But that was a lot of money way back there. We talking about way back in the that was back in the 50s. I'm talking about.
It's 5:55, Mr. MC.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a very good show, but let me get my little spiel in there. I was going to start this show off by saying Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, MC Richardson, and Legally Blind to see what they're doing at Central High School. But we urge the people who are the listeners to contact people in Kansas City and write letters to the editor. They should fire all those school board members. They're not doing their job. We have to work together. St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, St. Joe, and what have you. But I really appreciate, Rex, you have enlightened, except for that guy from Louisiana that's on the other end. And then that guy from Buffalo, he's going to go back. Oh, I didn't know that guy was that sharp. Well, I've been knowing you for a long time, Rex, and I think you do all right.
I've been on the street all my life. From a little boy, I've always been self-employed. I've been on the street. I done met everybody, from the crooked preachers to the pretty good preachers to the crooked politician to the con artists on the street, from New York to Hollywood. I've been out there all my life, and I already got a good God-gifted mind. So, yeah, I mean, I know if you want the true story, the real true story, some people, that one man told me one time, they don't want to hear the truth. But if you want the real truth, you come to me. I can give you the real truth. I can tell you the personalities of just about everybody who's supposed to be somebody here in Kansas City. I can tell you their personality. I can tell you one-on-one, the one that'll speak to you one-on-one, or the ones that'll wait till you speak and then he'll open up. But he'll pass by you because he's got a big title. He won't say nothing. But if you say, hello, Mr. Oh, yeah, hello, how are you? I know them old preachers like that, too.
Right. And
okay. All right, then.
Before we let you go, Rex, is that we got an election coming up. We want people to get out and vote. And we also want the people to stay tuned to not only guess who's coming to Kansas City, what other shows should they listen to, Mr. R, folks?
Oh, yes. My show comes on every Saturday at 1 to 3 p.m. on Riggleson, USA, HotTalkRadio.com, on Facebook, live on Facebook, YouTube, and also Twitch.
And before we get out of here, the Midwest Southeast Regional Conference is coming up here in Kansas City on my birthday, December the 3rd. We got the few seats available, but you need to call 816-822-8866. And then, Scott, what else should we do?
Always tune in to Ferguson USA, HotTalkRadio.com, and Facebook, and Twitch, Twitter, Telegram, all of your social media, and your podcast stations.
Quick before you go, Rex, and before our closes out again, how can you be reached? Do you want to be reached?
No, I told you the kind of guy I am. I can be reached. Anybody want to talk to me? I never got the big head. I told you that. I tell the call paper, and different papers say, I don't give everybody. I said, it's okay to give out my number. It's okay. Give out my number. It's okay. I'll talk to anybody. But that's it. You can go on the internet. Like I say, just say Rex Purifoy. That's all you got to do on your telephone, and it'll come up, or Nathaniel Purifoy. And that's all you have to do, and I'll come up with all the stuff that I told you about, and more stuff that I haven't told you about.
Well, we're gonna talk to you some more after you have your trip down there back home, and also my page is in the place too on Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City on the YouTube, on Facebook, and thanks to Mr. Scott. And thanks to you, Rex, for being on the show today. Now, we're going to let you say something, Howard, because he's going to cut us off. But go on and close us out, Howard.
Life is good. Life is good, Mr. Gilmore. Thanks for being here again. Thanks to Scott. Thanks to MC Richardson. And I'm happy to be part of this program. Thanks for have a good weekend. Be safe.
And remember, vote.